if I lived polygamy, I could do it better. You know, like as a parent, you're like, I can do it better than my mom did it. I can do it better than my dad did it. I think about it often where I'm like, if I could actually loan my husband out for a night with another woman, like, could I be okay with that? Mary, she is my dad's first wife. I do not like her. So I'll tell you guys all here, I do not like her. So the shift started, it was also the same time that the show started. So we started filming for Sister Wives, and it happened around 2010. Show, Robyn starts courting dad. The whole family has to move to Las Vegas. And we had to move in like a secrecy thing. So it was that you had 3 major life-changing events compound at once. Without any of us knowing it at the time, dad did fall head over heels in love with Robyn. It's very disrespectful to have a long courtship if you're already married, because it's disrespectful to the other wives. They had a long one though, 10 months, because they were actively filming the show for TLC. So it's like, that's why it was so long and there was so much like drawn up about it. It's because the show was seeking drama. They were like, how to put the Browns into an emotional situation where they're going to lash out and something negative is going to happen. Throw them on a vacation. They'll hate each other by the end of it. This is great content. So I was always going to, like, when I was younger, my whole plan was always to live polygamy. I was going to have multiple sister wives. I was going to have tons and tons of kids. Like, I wanted a big, huge family just like mine. And at the age of 12, like, I was already like checking out these other guys. Like, hey, I could be, you know, I could marry into this family or I could marry into this family. At 14, it was the same thing. I was like checking them out, but I did not like the AUB.
Mine is the only voice.
Wow.
What have I been doing?
Lay down my autonomy.
After that, it got very dark very quickly.
Hey guys, my name is Shalise Ansola, and this is Cults to Consciousness, where we discuss leaving high-demand religions or organizations and finding healing and independence through awareness and true individual sovereignty. If you're only listening, you can go to YouTube instead at Cults to Consciousness, see our faces, join in on the conversation. It's the best way to support the show and our guests because you can leave those words of encouragement for them down below, thoughts, opinions. We love our audience. Our community is incredible, and how you rally around our guests really warms our heart every time we see them come through. So thank you guys for doing that. Today's guest is actually the people who spoke, because over on her Patreon, everyone was like, you should reach out to Cults to Consciousness. And this is a topic that I've been wanting to cover too, which is the Sister Wives TV show. You guys have probably seen it or at least heard of it. And today we are having on child of Christine Brown, someone who grew up in the family, obviously, and lived in a family with polygamy, and we're going to be talking about her childhood and all the juicy details around that. So thanks so much for joining us, Mykelti Brown Padron.
Thank you, Shalise. I love your intro. That is so cute. I love it. So thank you for having me. I'm excited about this.
Yes. Yeah, this will be fun. And so for those watching, after we do this, we're going to immediately record another episode for her Patreon, right? Exclusive, members only type of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you guys want to check it out, you guys can come check it out on our Patreon for the second half of this. Well, we grill Shalise, but in like a nice way.
Yeah, looking forward to that. So I did lots of research on you, on the show, everything. Full disclosure, guys, I've never actually seen it. And this is why. So I grew up mainstream Mormon, as most of you probably know, and I moved to Vegas around the time that you did, Mykelti. And
Neighbors.
and everybody was like, oh my gosh, you must be connected to like Sister Wives. How many moms do you have? And I say that on the show all the time because I would get so annoyed when people thought that Mormonism was only polygamy. And I just didn't know that we were the ones kind of doing it wrong and that you guys were doing it the right way. And so I would be so annoyed. I'm like, oh, they're not affiliated with us, but you guys totally are. So anyways, I kind of boycotted the whole, like, I'm not watching this show because it's not a true representation of Mormonism. And then I also just didn't really watch TV in general. I didn't even have TV after I moved out of Vegas. So there was like a 10-year gap where I didn't watch anything. And then by the time I was interested in the show, I was like, there's too much to catch up on. I'm overwhelmed. I'm just not going to watch it. So that's why I haven't actually seen Sister Wives. But I did a lot of research, talked to a lot of people, so I feel like I have a pretty good understanding. So this interview is going to come from the perspective of someone who wants to learn more about you specifically and your upbringing and things that may or may not have aired on the show. And then, of course, if you want to give us some, quote, show tea, you're welcome to do that too for people who have seen it. So that's where we're coming from today.
Out of spite, you didn't watch it. That's actually awesome. That's such
It
a
was
good
out of
reason.
spite. It was out of spite initially, because I was one of those Mormons that was like, "Ah, we don't even practice polygamy anymore. This is so dumb." But, I learned. First of all, let's do an overview of the AUB because a lot of people also aren't familiar with the different sects of Mormonism when it comes to the fundamentalist side. So this is not the FLDS. If everyone's thinking, "Oh, Warren Jeffs," you might be familiar with that. This is not the FLDS. This is not the order, the one that Amanda Ray is from, who we have on all of the time. This is the AUB. So can you give people just a brief overview of what the AUB is?
Yeah, of course. So the AUB is a branch off of the mainstream Mormon church. You have Joseph Smith and his wives, and you've got Brigham Young, where a couple, years later, there is the Woolley clan. And the Woolley clan, which is not related to my mom's husband, it's a different thing. The Woolley clan was a group of people that essentially got together and were like, we don't know which religion is right, which one to branch off. Do we do polygamy this way? Do we do polygamy that way? So it was a big break. From that break, you get the Kingston group, you get the FLDS, you get the AUB. The AUB group is also known as the Apostolic United Brethren or the Allred clan. Allred is my mom's maiden name, and the majority of the members in the AUB for the leadership were Allreds. So it was known as the Allred clan by a lot of people as well. But it's a branch off of the mainstream Mormon church. So we still believe, or the church still believes, the fundamentals that the Book of Mormon taught, that Joseph Smith taught. We have a couple differences. The garments that my parents wore underneath their clothing were different styled. They were longer. A couple specifics with the word of wisdom or some of the articles of faith, as well as the Adam God doctrine. So there were a couple fundamentals that were different, but for the most part, very, very, very similar beliefs. If you saw a member of the AUB walking through Costco, you wouldn't be able to tell them from a mainstream Mormon church or an apostate or any other religion out there. They look just the same. So their FLDS religions are the ones that look like pilgrims still.
Yeah.
So AUB,
Yeah.
pretty normal. It just have a couple differences and, polygamy and all that.
Yeah. So did your mom, Christine, did she grow up in the main area where the prophet was, or was she in Utah?
She grew up in the main area where the prophet was, which at the time was in Utah. So
Okay.
the main section, the main temple, the temple of the AUB church is actually in Utah. And most people have seen it without even knowing what it is, just because it's kind of hidden, but it's really kind of out in the open. So it's easy to find the compound, the group, but the main one is actually in Utah. My mom grew up primarily around Salt Lake City area, Sandy, South Jordan style, which was fairly close. So her parents also grew up in the church. My mom's dad was actually the son of the prophet when my mom was growing up. And then my mom's dad's father's father was the prophet before him. Yeah, she was
Wow.
considered what AUB royalty is kind of what she was considered because it was a long line of prophets. It was a
Yeah.
long line of higher priesthood holding members, but she grew up around the prophet and she had met him many times. The prophet, when she was born, passed away when she was really, really young. And then the second prophet afterwards actually was not blood related to her, but she did know him well.
Okay. Deep, deep roots in the AUB. Is she still practicing AUB? She's not. I mean, I know she's not doing polygamy. Okay, so she's out. And this
She's
is
out.
also one of the guests that I want to get on. I want to get your mom on. I know she just wrote a book, so I want to get her book, read the book, have your mom on. It would be great to hear her perspective too.
It's a really, really good book about, honestly, obviously a lot of polygamy, but a lot of struggle through religion, struggle through belief, but struggle through being a woman as well. So it's a great book,
Yeah.
just from a woman's perspective.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll have to get in touch. Okay. So, long line from that. What about Kody, your dad? He's a convert.
Mm-hmm. He was raised and born in the mainstream Mormon church. And actually on his LDS mission, his parents sent him a letter saying, hey, we're leaving the LDS church. We're actually going to join this group of polygamy. And just, here are our reasons. Feel free to do it if you want to. So, like, during my dad's mission, he was kind of struggling with this. And he had already had doubts about the mainstream Mormon church. So he came back, started investigating it. And then, he converted to the AUB church as well.
Okay.
So he's probably about 21 when he converted, 2021.
So with hindsight being 2020, with everything you've seen happen, unfold, he ended up with 4 wives. Now he has 1. And knowing his personality, do you feel like he was, well, I'm not going to lead the witness. Why do you think he was down to join the AUB?
I think that he had a lot of issues with some aspects of the mainstream Mormon church, one of them being that Joseph Smith did have multiple wives. And in Doctrine and Covenants in D&C, it talks about having multiple wives. And in heaven, you're going to get multiple wives. And so he knew it was something that ultimately was the way to get to heaven and was the way to have the eternal glory in the highest tier of heaven as well. So I think that polygamy specifically appealed to him from he actually genuinely believed that it was right and correct, and it was what God wanted him to do at the time. I do think he genuinely was like, no, I feel like this is it. He prayed a lot about it. He felt like it was his calling, like it was where he was needed to go.
Okay, that's so interesting. Let's talk about the dynamic of your family. Your mom is the 3rd wife, correct?
Yes.
So he started off in the early 90s. Was it 91 that he got his first wife?
Oh, that's a great question.
We don't have to know the exact dates, but early 90s.
Yeah, early 90s.
And the first 3 were pretty much like a year after year or 2 years in between that he got those 3.
Yeah, so he married Mary in early 90s, and then about 2 years later, he married Janelle, which is the second wife. And then about a year after that or so, maybe about a year and a half, he married my mom. And none of them at the time when my mom was married to him had had any children, but Janelle was pregnant when my mom married my dad.
Okay. Man, I'm pregnant right now. And just thinking
Ooh, congrats. And
I am
also,
so pregnant. Thank you. I'm 4 weeks away as of this recording.
Almost done. You're almost free. You can do this.
So close.
You can do this.
But just you saying that she was pregnant when he got another wife, that just made my skin crawl because I just could not imagine being in this state and my husband being like, by the way, I'm going to bring someone else in. I would have been like, excuse me? No, you are not.
Crazy too, because it ended up happening to her as well when my dad was courting Robyn, the 4th wife, sorry. My mom was pregnant.
Ooh.
So it ended up happening to her. She got to feel what Janelle felt.
Yeah. Okay. And you are the 2nd oldest of your mom of 6.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm the 5th oldest in the family and the 2nd oldest of my mom. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you just grew up with, these are my moms, and it was completely normal to you. Let's talk about your childhood and the dynamic. You were living in separate houses in Vegas. Were you living in separate houses in Utah too?
So in Utah, we actually moved around a lot. So we moved back and forth from Wyoming to Utah for most of my childhood. In Wyoming, we had separate houses, but they were on the same property, kind of like a cul-de-sac almost, but it was like in the middle of nowhere. And then in Utah, we actually had one house that had 3 different sections, and it's a very common build in Utah because of polygamists. So it's almost like an apartment style condo, but there's like 3 or 4 areas and they're all connected to each other. So you could walk through my mom's house to get into Mary's house. You could walk through Mary's house to get into Janelle's house. So they were all connected, but it was one building until he married Robyn, the 4th wife. And then she had a separate house. We had plans eventually to be able to go back all into one, but then the family moved to Vegas. So dynamic wise, I didn't understand what monogamy was. Like having, one wife was not very common at all. It happened even in our religion, but it was not common. But when I grew up, I always understood that these are my moms, end of story. The one who birthed me is the one who, I stay at their house and she has final say on things, but these are all my moms. And my siblings, regardless of which mom they come from, were all my full-blooded siblings. They were all my siblings. But because of the secrecy of polygamy, if we were in public, I wasn't allowed to claim them as my siblings. So they were my cousins and my other moms were my aunts when we were in public. We weren't allowed to be like, yeah, this is my sister Maddie, even though she comes from another mother, but she's my sister. So we had to hide a lot growing up, but they were, and still are to this day, I still consider them all my full-blooded siblings. They're not halves, they're not whatever step or anything like that. They are my siblings. full,
Yeah.
true and true. It's honestly hard to describe almost because I don't know any different. Like I don't understand monogamy. I live it now, but I don't like understand how it is as a child. What I really loved about it though is that I always had somebody to play with. I always had somebody to hang out with. I always had a parent around. Like we didn't have babysitters growing up. We had parents. There was always like an adult present. I always had somebody like taking care of us. We always had just like friends and plums
Yeah.
friends. We got ignored a lot because, you know, there were a lot of us. So not all of us got the time and attention that we needed or wanted. I actually loved my childhood. There were like ups and downs in everybody's childhood, but I actually loved it. And I think that that's one of the biggest reasons why I'm still like struggle with the idea of, is polygamy bad? I don't
Oh
know.
my gosh. Yeah.
Religious polygamy, yes. I can't do religious polygamy. It's too much like controlling, you know, woman has to be subservient. No, gross. Don't do that to me. But like the idea of a plural wife that comes with the benefit of those plural children, I'm like, I still have a hard time saying like absolutely definitively no. It's something that I like. I'm like, but wait, I'll never live it because my husband says hard no. But because of
Yeah.
how my childhood was, I'm like, I don't know. Kind of like there's some benefits still. So
Okay, let's dig into that a little bit because I think people are going to be interested. Quick break from our guest for some girl talk. After multiple surgeries, pregnancies, and breastfeeding, I've always had the hardest time finding a bra that is supportive, accentuates my body, and is comfortable. Cut to me crying in a Victoria's Secret dressing room because the employee literally told me there was nothing in the store that fit me right. I can finally say I found the solution in Honey Love, an independent, female-founded, and designed brand. My new everyday go-to is their recently launched wireless crossover contour bra because it has built-in padding, it gives you that lifted contour shape, and guys, it is so comfortable. Or you can try their frequently sold out Cloud Embrace bra for just a little extra oomph. I'm also a huge fan of their shapewear, which is actually how I discovered them in the first place when I was 9 months postpartum. It's also comfortable and supportive because it moves with your body instead of pinching or rolling down, and they use this targeting compressions, so it really accentuates your natural curves without squeezing them to death. Their products are also just really beautiful with their lingerie-inspired design details, and the fabric is so high quality. Treat yourself to the most advanced bras and shapewear on the market. And if you use our exclusive link, you're going to get 20% off Honeylove at honeylove.com/C2C. That's honeylove.com/C. After you check out, they're going to ask how you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. You have to experience the new standard in comfort and support with Honeylove. Thanks, guys. Back to our guest. If you feel like multiple partners is a positive thing because of the built-in community and because of the bigger family, how would you feel about a second husband?
I honestly actually would not enjoy a second husband. I would, you know, if we're gonna, I don't want to be crass, but like, you know, there's some benefits to a second husband, obviously. But dealing with multiple Tonys, who is my husband, sounds like an absolute nightmare. Like, I enjoy the idea that first off, I would, you know, be able to have a break every now and then, like go to sleep by myself when I want to go to sleep, which sometimes is
How
3 a.m. because I get
funny.
stuck reading a book and I don't get forced into bed early. Or I would enjoy like him getting taken care of sometimes when I don't want to, you know? I think there's a lot of benefits to a plural woman, and a lot of it is the female companionship. I love the female companionship, which obviously you could get that from a best friend. You can get a female
Yeah.
companionship from community, from a sister, from anything. So there's ways to get it. But the idea of like another man companionship, I'm just like, I just don't want to deal with another man. They're a lot.
But don't you feel like that's how Tony feels? I watched your interview with Sam and Melissa growing up in polygamy. Everyone should watch it. Sam and Melissa are amazing. And he was like, I don't want a second wife. Like, it's hard enough to just have one. Like, why would I want to split my time? So it seems like it's a mutual
reason.
agreement. Yeah. Of
Yeah.
like, why make this more complicated? And it seems like you just like the idea of independence, which is also interesting because I think when you live polygamy, your independence gets stripped in some ways where you don't have say with things.
Yeah, I think in a lot of, especially like the religious polygamy, I mean, FLDS, Kingston Group, AUB, the religious communities is because they put the man on the pedestal.
Yeah.
And ultimately, he's like the priesthood head. He's the person that says, yes or no, you get to go to heaven. Your design, like in polygamy, women are supposed to be subservient. They're supposed to be like, keep the peace, keep keep quiet and obey, pray and obey. That saying, keep quiet, pray and obey.
Independence, but you don't get
No.
independence
Yeah, you
when
don't
you're
get
in
independence with
polygamy.
the religious. If it's like a more of a fundamentalist and the man can let go of control, I think it can work. Tony, like, he's not pig-headed enough to try to control me or another woman. I
Yeah.
am fully like, I get to do whatever I want whenever I want. I'm fully independent as long as, we can afford it. So there is a lot of like really cool independence that could happen outside of religious polygamy. Religious polygamy, I think, is where you lose your own autonomy. It's where you lose a lot of your independence because the design is to make the man the ultimate say and a woman subservient.
I just wonder, and I'm sure you've talked about this and thought about this too, if you couldn't get the same dynamic by just having a bestie who has her own husband and it's still this community aspect, like you help me, I help you, but she's not sleeping with your husband.
And that's where I'm like, that I could do that. Like, I have besties that, don't even look at my husband, so it's great. I don't have to worry about anything, take my claws out. So
Yeah.
then that's what it is. Like, a lot of the benefits of the polygamy, but then I also look at the aspects of like the built-in best friend. So she's somebody that is always at your house. She's somebody that lives there. She's somebody where your kids are being raised right inside the same house together. So like, that's also where I see a lot of the, hey, that's cool, which can
Mhm.
again be done with a friend who comes over all the time and she has kids.
Yeah.
It can be done. Again, it can happen super easily without polygamy. And yeah, your husband's sleeping with another woman, but it's like still ingrained in my head that, oh, but wait, or polygamy, like, just make it easier. And I think that's just
Yeah.
like, I don't know, either brainwashing from when I was younger or something. Cause I'm like, or polygamy.
So, yeah, I think on paper, it can seem like a good idea, and in practice, it tends to implode. And I wonder how much of that you saw.
In practice, we're all human. So we're
Yeah.
all going to make mistakes. We're all going to implode. We're all going to have massive issues.
It's messy. A regular marriage is messy. So, the show has been going for 20 seasons. So, clearly
Mhm.
there's something for people to comment on, to watch, to see the dynamics, and in Cody's case, it didn't work out. Now he's accidentally living monogamy. But I wonder if in your childhood, it felt more idealistic. Because if you try to practice it now, I wonder if you would feel the same way actually being in that position and living it and giving your husband away to your bestie, even though you're like, I love my bestie, this is great. But do you think you would actually be able to stomach it when it came time?
I don't know if I'm being honest. Like, I don't know, because I I do have that like growing up as a child, like rose-colored glasses lens on a lot of the time. So
Mhm.
like, I think about it often where I'm like, if I could actually loan my husband out for a night with another woman, like, could I be okay with that? And like, honestly, I think no. Like, I would have such a hard time with it. But at the same time, I'm like, but here are the benefits of it. So that goes back to I just think the brainwashing of being raised in it, where I'm like, but these are the benefits, it's okay because it'll be better in the end. So in practice, I have no idea. Like, if it actually came
Yeah.
down to it, I don't know.
Because I also wonder, it isn't just one night at a time. It's essentially 50-50, right? If we're being
Mhm.
fair. So he's not going to be there for half the time, which also means he's not going to be there for your kids half the time. So I know you have a perspective now as a mother, and maybe we'll get to that a little bit later. But let's go back to your childhood and your relationship with your dad, because he had to split his time across multiple women.
So I was actually one of his kids that he spent the least amount of time with.
Really?
I was like, what? Yeah, I was like what you like to get called a black sheep of the family. I was heavily neglected. I was heavily ignored. I was not hung out with really unless it was for punishment. My dad and I did not have a very good or healthy relationship. And I think that is one of the reasons why I still think, hey, pro polygamy, because I had a good relationship with some of my other moms and some of my other siblings. And growing up, I knew it wasn't me. Like, I was like, he's not upset of me. He doesn't dislike me. It's that he has a bajillion kids and I'm simply not the easy one. And that's what I always thought of growing up, is that it's not my fault. It's not his fault. It's simply that this is what it is. And at least I have these other siblings. So I never took it. I know it kind of sounds like I'm gaslighting myself almost, but I never took it super personally until later in life. Like later in life, I was like, no, this is straight up crap. But when I was younger, growing up, I was just like, this is how it is. Like, this is just polygamy. This is just the downside of having all these kids, is that I don't get my dad 50% of the time. I don't even get him 30% of the time. I'll get him here and there, like 15% of the time. So one of the things that my dad tried to do, knowing that there was no way he was going to be able to have an incredible relationship with all of us, because he also had to have a relationship with those moms and he still had a job, is that when we did hang out together, he would try to do an activity, or he would try to like watch a movie that all of us would hang out and enjoy, and all of us could like sit next to him or wrestle with him and horse around and stuff. So it was he would try to do things that was like inclusive versus one-on-one hunting trip with the boys. Like he didn't do those a whole lot, or like just take one of his kids out on an errand. He didn't do that. I think that he tried when we were younger to do what he could, but I honestly think he was spread thin. And so he latched on it to the kids that were a little bit easier to get along with and personality wise and stuff.
Okay.
But again, when I was younger, I didn't take it personally.
So do you think it's fair to say that if your father had a different relationship with you growing up, where you did really feel that void when he was gone and were so excited to see him when he was there and you had a good relationship, do you feel like that would have changed the way that you view polygamy now because you're seeing it as a pro? Well, like, at least I didn't have to hang out with that guy that didn't like me very much. But if you did have a relationship, maybe you would have felt differently?
Yes and no. I mean, so my husband and my situation right now is that we both parent 50-50. In the day, I work a 9 to 5 job and I am gone. He is full-time parent. And then when I come home, we maybe have about an hour and a half together with the kids. And then he goes to work and he works nights. So as of right now, my kids get each of us 50% of the time. And even when my husband is home and working, a lot of the time he has other projects that he has to work on as well. He's got a really big chess career and he's a chess coach. So my kids get both of us 50%, but when we are with them, we give them what we can. We give them the attention, we give them the love that we can, and they miss us when we're gone. And sometimes they hate us when we're there. So I think that it would just end up being any parent relationship with a kid where you just, whether they're around or they're not around, there's going to be a struggle somewhere. So I don't know that it would change my view on maybe I could live polygamy. I don't know that it would change that too much, just because who knows?
Yeah. Interesting. You talked about how you felt neglected and also how the mothers would all kind of take responsibility, but your mom had the final say. Do you feel like there were things that were lost in translation, maybe where a child needed something and one mom thought the other mom had it covered, and so something just didn't happen? Or do you feel like because there were so many moms to look out for all of the kids that everyone had their needs met?
Oh no, definitely not. None of my siblings had their needs met. None of them. Like all of my siblings, maybe 2 of them had their needs met, but they were always left wanting. But like whatever
Yeah.
parent was around, depending on what they thought should be done or what they didn't think should be done, typically happened. And if it wasn't something where the kid brought it up to their biological mom, it wasn't ever looked at again, essentially. My community on Patreon knows that I do not like Mary. She is my dad's first wife. I do not like her. So I'll tell you guys all here, I do not like her. She was mean growing up. She still is. I don't care what she looks like on the show. She was mean. She was aggressive. She was manipulative. She was the favorite wife and she got the favorite wife privileges and perks. She was the first wife. So if she was in charge and she was the one watching us, all of us kids were cower and we were all scared and we were all like, okay, whatever you say, Mary, just don't hurt me. Don't be mean to me. Don't yell at me. She had this like scream that she would do when she wasn't getting her way. And it was like pure, like loud and angry and just scary. It was like what you would imagine a freaking dragon screaming at a little child. Think about that. So if Mary was around and Mary took care of whatever happened, we all got severely, whatever it was, disciplined, talked down to, grounded, other things. And us kids would be quiet about it. We didn't talk about it too much because every time that we did talk about it or we did tell parent, they would be like, well, it's probably your fault. Or Mary was just trying to do what she thought she was supposed to do. Like it was almost like shoved under the rug and covered up. Like they didn't talk about, no, that's not okay for any parent to do that. Not okay.
Yeah.
That is a downside of polygamy, obviously, because if like my mom had hurt me and I had told my dad that my mom had hurt me, I would hope that something would be different. Whereas if Mary had hurt me and I told my dad that Mary had hurt me, he'd be like, oh, you're fine. She was probably just taking care of what she needed to. So most of us kids, I was never one to be like, Mary hurt me, or Mary did this, Mary did that. A couple of my other siblings were stronger. They would stand up, they would say something, but nothing would change. So it got to the point of where we just stopped saying something until we got older. And then we got bigger, stronger, tougher, knew that this wasn't okay. And that's when it stopped. I don't even know if that answers your original question, Therese.
Well, it definitely gave a lot of insight though, because it made me think about having a community to raise your kids is great until you have differences in opinions when it comes to parenting. So was everyone kind of on the same page of this is how we parent all of our children? Or like you were saying, Mary was what seems to be abusive and the other mothers weren't? Or how did each mother decide to parent and was everyone okay with it?
So for the most part, there was here and there discussions about it, like, hey, this is how we're going to discipline. This is how we're going to eat. This is how we're going to dress our kids. This is how we're going to have them behave. So for the most part, they'd have a couple discussions like that, but it would also come down to just what parent was around, what they wanted to do. Usually they were supposed to like reserve punishments for like severe punishments or things like that, or severe disciplining for the biological parent. Like that was what they were supposed to do a lot of the time. But there were so many kids and there was so much chaos, and all of the moms had a part-time job or a full-time job working. So a lot of things just didn't get talked about until they got exploded, and then something changed. So as far as like parenting goes, I think they all went in with an idea and they talked about it here and there, but it was never like conclusive, this is what we will do in this situation. It was kind of just down to the parent that was watching the children at the time.
Yeah.
Which is why there were a lot of issues with that.
Who was your second favorite mom to go to if you had an issue and your mom wasn't available?
For sure, Janelle. I mean, 100%. So Janelle is my dad's second wife, and her personality is she's very business oriented, but she's very loving. Regardless of what happens, she puts kids first, but she's very businesslike. So she's not one that's going to go up and give you a hug if you're crying. She'll go up and say, who do I need to hurt? What happened? Let's get down to the business of this. But she was also the one that worked the most. So my dad was always gone on business, like not always gone. My dad was often gone for work. My dad worked the most and he did a lot of sales with like travel sailing. And Janelle was like in town businesswoman, works her typical 9 to 5. So Janelle worked the second most, and then Mary and my mom both had part-time jobs. So Janelle is like the second person I would go to the most, but she also had the second most amount of kids. Her and my mom at the end of it all had the same amount. They both have 6 kids. So growing up, Janelle would have a kid, and then my mom, and then Janelle, and then my mom, and then Janelle, and then my mom. Like that's pretty much what it was like. So Janelle had a lot on her plate as well. So typically if there was an issue, I personally didn't talk about it, or I would go to my mom, or I usually just didn't talk about it. That's usually what I did. But definitely Janelle for second favorite, for sure.
Okay. What do you think you were lacking the most if you were to look back, hindsight is 2020, now you have kids that you give all of your love, attention, affection to. Do you feel like you were lacking more in like an emotional way, a physical way, maybe even a spiritual way? I don't know how invested your family was in following the principles of AUB, but what do you feel like could have been done better in your childhood?
I think my parents could have read a parenting book, for sure. That could have been done a lot better. I don't think any of my parents ever cracked even a little bit of a child like parenting book, how to change a diaper. They just learned from their parents, how to like discipline here. They just learned from their parents. But if they had cracked a child parenting book, for sure, everything could have changed. Personally though, I feel attention, honestly, I think that's the biggest thing, is just like one-on-one attention would have been better, because it would have helped my parents to understand like these are the true feelings, this is what's really going on, this is the deeper scope of it, it's not just like a one-time event. So like one-on-one more attention. But I think that's a lot of what my parents couldn't give, because they were just trying to scrape by. We were like intense poverty, even with, you would think with 4 adults having a job, no, intense poverty. So my parents were working crappy jobs, trying to get as much money as they could. My mom sometimes would have 2 to 3 different jobs. She, like, in the middle of the night would go drive her car and deliver a paper route just to get some more food, basically to afford life. So I think that my parents, when we were around and they were able to take care of us, a lot of it was just exhaustion. They were exhausted and they were tired and they were too in their own survival mode to understand things that were happening. They were too in survival to understand that this kid needs extra attention here. This kid needs a little bit more, like, hey, you stop being aggressive here. They left a lot of what we did day to day up to us kids. Actually, us kids, like, we'd have a parent on the property, but we were pretty much left alone a lot. Like, just go figure it out, go do your thing. We needed a little bit more like parental actual sitting there and watching us, or like guidance on, hey, don't treat your sibling like this, or hey, if you want to climb a rock wall, that's great, but let's, like, use a harness. So I think just attention would have been like the biggest thing. So if they had cracked a parenting book, they would have learned that they need to, change up a couple things and do some attention. So
Did you feel parentified early on because you were one of the oldest?
my daughter turns 5 tomorrow, and I remember being her age and having to take care of babies that were like baby, and having to change diapers.
What?
Yeah, I was changing diapers at 5 and having to, like,
Wow.
learn how to swaddle kids and learn how to get them dressed and everything. Like, I was potty trained before my older sibling, Aspen, actually first. I was the first potty trained. It's just like a proud moment of myself. It's great. I'm younger and I was the first. But it was because, like, you had to learn quick. You had to pick it up quick so that you could take care of the rest of the kids that were coming in, because you all weren't always going to have a parent there to take care of you or to take care of those kids, and a lot of it was on you. So my sister Aspen, who's my older sister from my mom, like, I actually every now and then would think of her as a mom. Like, she helped raise me. She helped raise my younger siblings from my mom, Gwendolyn, Isabel, and Truly. So she's almost like was a second mom. She had to grow up a lot faster than I did. But like, Logan was my mom Janelle's oldest boy. He's the oldest boy of all of the family. He's the oldest kid of all of the family. Logan raised us, like Logan and Aspen. That's like, that was a big part of it, because there were so many, because my parents were working so much.
It's so interesting hearing all these perspectives come together to form the greater puzzle with all these little pieces, because it seems like on one hand, we had a community because there were so many moms to take care of us, but on the other hand, they were all gone working because they had to support everybody too. And so it seems like you were just being bounced around from house to house while someone was working, or just not being watched at all.
Yeah, that was a lot of it. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I'm like, hey, if I lived polygamy, I could do it better. Like, as a parent, you're like, I can do it better than my mom did it. I can do it better than my dad did it. So that's one of the other reasons why I'm like, if I ever did take up the mantle, it'd be like, I know that I could do it better. So I think that's the other part of it, is hopefully less poverty, please, please less. But I think that's part of it, is that I want a chance at a do-over. I want a chance to be able to be like, do it better than my parents, do it better than my father, prove that, if you guys did learn to listen, or you did learn to read a parenting book, or you did learn what we actually needed, it could have been done better. So maybe that's part of it, is that it's proving them wrong, or proving that there's a better way, I guess.
Oh, okay. I could see the psychology behind that. And I also want to be clear, because I know we've had people comment on our pages that maybe they live polygamy or polyandry, and it's beautiful and it's great. And I'm not shitting on anybody's lifestyle. I feel like if you can do it safely with consenting adults and make sure the children are taken care of, that's great. You do you. I think in these scenarios, especially when we do have strong religious polls, we do need to point out all of the more negative sides or the downsides, and just kind of evaluate it a little bit more and help to understand it more. So I guess this is just a disclaimer. If you choose to live polyamory or polyandry or polygamy or polygyny, that's 100% your choice.
Ethical consenting polyandry.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So, and that's why I also brought up, well, what about more husbands? Because if we're gonna do this, let's make it fair.
You're gonna have both sides, yeah.
Because usually when it comes to polygamy, it's the wives who are either groomed to agree to it at a young age, or it's something that it's all they've ever known, or it's something that they get pushed into, and or they didn't really choose it, or because it's a religious thing of like, well, God said, and so it just convolutes it quite a bit. And the power dynamic you mentioned on Sam and Melissa's podcast, you feel like there still has to be a strong patriarchal force in order for polygamy to really work. And a lot of women aren't okay with being submissive, but as you mentioned, some are. So, anyways, we can move on from that, but that was very interesting. I wanted to talk about the dynamic shift. You move to Vegas, Robyn comes into the picture, and as far as everyone can see, your dad, Kody, is now in love, and everyone else just kind of falls to the wayside. And let's talk about the shift there.
So the shift started, it was also the same time that the show started. So we started filming for Sister Wives, and it happened around 2010, I think, if I remember right. Yeah, like when Truly was born. So it all happened at the same time. Show, Robyn starts courting dad. The whole family has to move to Las Vegas. And we had to move in like a secrecy thing. So it was that you had 3 major life-changing events compound at once. And without any of us knowing it at the time, dad did fall head over heels in love with Robyn. And I don't think that he knew. He didn't understand. He didn't know. He didn't. But automatically, I mean, when you love somebody, you're going to go out of your way to do things for them. You're going to want to be around them more. If it's a very fun, healthy, happy, beautiful relationship, you're going to crave it versus a relationship that you have to put in work and you have to put in effort and maybe it's not in a good place. You're going to like almost pull back from it. So the relationship that he had with the rest of his wives was wishy-washy, sometimes super good, sometimes super bad, sometimes in the middle. Just I feel like a lot of marriages, like you have ups and downs in marriages. But the point, like hopefully in a healthy marriage, is that you work through them. With polygamy, my dad didn't have to work through them. He could bounce to the next house.
Mm.
So, Robyn, it was still the honeymoon phase because they were newlyweds. They didn't have 20 years of history to get, ups and downs. They didn't have 20 years of growth, 20 years of religious controversy to like build a foundation. They had honeymoon. So dad did tend to gravitate more to Robyn, but I don't think that initially he did it on purpose, but it did cause a shift. My mom got jealous because she just barely gave birth. She was going through life-changing events as well. She was going through postpartum. She had 5 other kids to take care of in addition to a brand new newborn. Janelle, same thing. She works tons, but she has 5 teenagers. Not quite 5. There were 3 teenagers and 3 other kids that she also had to care for and she needed help with. And then Mary had 1 child at the time. She still only has 1 child, but she was going through like a trying to get pregnant. Like she was heartbroken that she couldn't. So it was like all of these other moms needed him tons and it hurt those relationships a lot. I think it personally hurt my mom the most, partially because she had a brand new baby. And instead of like always being there around that brand new baby, he was courting and dating like this other woman as well. So the dynamic was weird. And then I think as more happened, in Las Vegas, when we first moved there, our houses weren't very close. We each had individual homes. So it made the parents kind of separate. They almost became like a single family unit in a monogamous situation instead of with polygamy. So the siblings that I used to always be right next to, I was no longer, and I didn't have as much access to. So it strained the relationships on the siblings a lot. It made it really difficult for us because we missed each other. But then it gave my parents a sense of like, this is my house. This is like gave my mom's like, this is my house. I can do what I want with my house. I don't have to worry about complying with my sister wives. But I don't see my husband. Like, where is he? And so they all started pointing fingers at my dad at being at Robyn's house, which a lot of the time was true. But a lot of it was also my dad, like having kind of discovering his own independence as well, because these women couldn't see where he was all the time. He could go kind of figure out who Kody was and do his own thing. So they all started just becoming more independent. And then when the family moved again, they actually found a cul-de-sac where all the houses were right next to each other. Very big, very luscious, like beautiful homes right next to each other. So the kids could have that relationship again, but then my moms could also see where my dad was. And that's where a lot of things started to be like, you do obviously favor Robyn. It's more than just like this honeymoon phase. It's more than just getting to know these kids. She brought in 3 kids from her first marriage. She was previously married. And it's more than that. It was like my mom could tell he was in love with Robyn and he just loved my mom. And so it did create a lot of like rifts. But my mom, Janelle, Mary, they were like, well, we still have all these kids. We're still co-parenting. We still believe in this religion and this faith. So we're going to stay here. We're going to keep doing this. And I think that's part of the ingraining doctrine that they got from, being in polygamy. My mom and Mary were mostly raised in it. My mom, her whole life, Mary, most of her life. Janelle was actually a convert to it, but Janelle fell in love with polygamy. And before that, Janelle was in the mainstream Mormon church as well. It was part of the religion. They were taught that this is just what it is. You have to continue to endure in order to get to the highest level of heaven and the highest kingdom of heaven. So it just kind of became what it was. But there was a very big shift. My siblings started noticing it. I started noticing that he favored Robyn. He was usually at Robyn's house. But at the same time, I don't think that Robyn understood that he was there all the time because she hadn't ever experienced polygamy. She hadn't ever had a other sister wife where she knew that her husband was with another man. This was her first experience of polygamy. And it wasn't just like a simple one wife trying to figure it out. It was a big one. They just barely moved. He had 3 other wives and there was a whole show surrounding it. So I don't think that Robyn fully understood that he was always there with her until way later, where it became blatantly obvious. But at that point, the family had like destructured so much. I don't think that there was any saving when my dad and Robyn finally realized this is wrong.
How did Robyn even come into the picture? Because there was like a 15-year gap between your mom and then Robyn coming in, and then she already had kids. So how did this all come about?
So Robyn was actually raised at the AUB church, but she grew up in Montana. So she married her first husband, Preston, when she was, I think she was about 19 or so. She married him because they got pregnant with her first son. So she was kind of forced into the marriage. It was very like, her parents were like, do this. Like, this is your option. You got pregnant, you're getting married, period. So she got married. She had 2 other kids with him. They moved around a lot, just trying to like figure things out. But it was a very, very unhealthy relationship. He was awful to her. He was awful to their kids. He was not a good man. From what I only know her story and what her kids talk about. So I've met Preston like 3 times in my life, but it was a very unhealthy marriage. So they separated when her youngest was, I think she was 5 or 6. So they separated and then she moved to St. George, Utah. Robyn moved to St. George, Utah, which was the same place that her parents lived in. And she started raising her kids by herself, just like figuring it out. And then she was part of the AUB church. So she traveled from St. George, Utah, which is about 4 hours away from Salt Lake City, Utah. She traveled up to the Salt Lake City area to attend a church that was put on by the AUB. One of her friends invited her to come up and stay with them for the weekend to meet people, mingle, get out of the house. She's been a single mom for a while. She needs some help. So just kind of go have a girls' night free of her kids, basically. So they went to this dance. Mary and my dad were at that dance as well. Mary noticed Robyn and was like, hey, she's kind of cute. In the AUB church, you're encouraged to have many, many wives. It's like it shows a higher level of authority, closer to God, closer to higher levels of kingdom. So it was encouraged for him to have another wife. It wasn't pressured upon him, but it was encouraged. And he saw Robyn. He was like, oh yeah, she's cute, but she's, divorced with 3 kids. It's not happening. But then there were like a couple life instances where they were like dad and Robyn were almost like thrown together where they were at the same event. They saw each other again and it kept happening that dad was kind of like, well, I'm actually kind of interested now. Just got to know her and stuff. And then he approached the idea with his other wives and were like, I'm actually interested in courting Robyn to be a member of our family. These are her 3 kids. Her and her 3 kids like came and they did like different potlucks with my whole family so that the family could get to know each other and see if the kids would get along, see if it would work. This whole thing probably happened over the course of a month, like from meeting her to being like, I want to marry her was like over the course of a month. So after a couple of times of meeting Robyn and her kids, dad like basically put it to a vote and was like, hey, I want Robyn to join the family, but what do you guys think? All of the kids loved it. We were all on board. My mom was wishy-washy, but she knew that it was like how to get to heaven. I don't think Janelle cared too much. She was just like, okay, sure, whatever. fine. Robyn's fine. Her kids are fine. Sure. And Mary was like encouraging it. She was like, yes, I'm so down for this. And then they got married. Essentially, they had about a 10-month courtship, which was really, really long in the AUB. But one of the reasons why they did it that long, and it's very disrespectful to have a long courtship if you're already married, because it's disrespectful to the other wives. They had a long one though, 10 months, because they were actively filming the show on Sister Wives for TLC. So it's like, that's why it was so long. And there was so much like drawn up about it. But that's essentially how Robyn joined the family.
Wow. How old were you when that happened?
I was 14. I was 14 when Robyn joined the family.
What was it like for you to all of a sudden have all of these cameras filming you 24/7? And how did it change the dynamic of the family itself?
It was stressful. It was really, really stressful. I thought it was cool. Like, it was awesome. Oh, yay. These people are going to come watch our lives and we're going to be on TV. We're going to be famous. Like, so that was cool. But we were always told, basically, you guys have to behave. You have to put on your best foot. No fighting, no arguing. You have to like dress nice. You can't complain. You can't tattletale. You have to keep secrets. Like, if there's something that you're not allowed to tell people, Mary's behavior, don't tell people, kind of thing. So it was stressful because we had to put up a fake front. All of us kids did. We had to like put this. Yeah. So it was really, really stressful. It was cool because of the, famous part aspect, but it was stressful. But the people that started filming us were always the same people. So we got really comfortable with them because we knew them. So the more that they would come around and film, the less scary it got, the less like, this is weird, just because we got to know them so well. But it was really weird to talk openly about polygamy because we were always raised that don't tell people about polygamy, don't talk about it, don't tell friends about it. If there's anybody outside of our group, these are your cousins, these are your aunts, don't bring it up. So it was also weird that for total strangers, we could finally be open. And then when the show aired, I was allowed to claim my siblings in public, and I was allowed to claim my mom's, and I was allowed to be honest for the first time with anybody I wanted to. But at the same time, because I could be honest, it was because I had to fake my personality for the camera in the show. So came with a lot of benefits, came with a lot of downside, and it was hard, being 14. This is all going on. It was difficult because you're going through like just a stressful time. Freaking being a kid going through school, it's hard enough. I also started to we'd get recognized at school and stuff. And it was like, this is cool. We're getting recognized at school. But then there are downsides because people were like, I hate your dad. I hate your mom. Your religion is awful. And I'm like this little kid being like, sorry, like, what do I tell you?
Yeah. And that's what I wanted to ask you is how injected into regular society were you? And once the show came out, were you kind of wishing that nobody did know about your life because it was so different?
So when I was just turned 14, all of our parents enrolled all us kids for the first time into public school. Before that, we were actually at either homeschooled or at the church school. There was a church school for the AUB for polygamists. And so at 14, right before the show started, right before my dad married Robyn, we were all finally like in society. I went to public school for the first time in my whole life.
What was that like? That must have been a culture shock.
Oh, huge culture shock. There were new colors, there were new religions, there were new like everybody. Because growing up, my parents' religion, it was only white, only white. We had like 3 Hispanics. Like that was it. That was it. So it was like a huge culture shock, but it was also so cool. I loved it. I was like, finally, I knew there were other things out there. I knew there were other people out there. I knew there were other beliefs. Like, where have they been hiding? Like, I knew this was a thing. So it was actually really, really cool to like go into and finally get exposed to other cultures. It was a little bit of a shock for the first 2 seconds, but then you know, when you're young, you make friends easy and you're not as shy to ask questions that, are socially inappropriate. You just you figure it out. So it was actually really fun. It was really cool.
That's awesome. So is that when you started to really understand the cracks in the AUB theology, or how invested were you? I meant to ask this earlier. How invested were you in AUB just initially growing up, being raised in it?
So I was always going to, like, when I was younger, my whole plan was always to live polygamy. I was gonna have multiple sister wives. I was gonna have tons and tons of kids. Like, I wanted a big, huge family just like mine. And at the age of 12, like, I was already like checking out these other guys. Like, hey, I could be, I could marry into this family, or I could marry into this family. At 14, it was the same thing. I was like checking them out, but I did not like the AUB. The entire AUB religion, the mainstream Mormon church did not allow Black people to have the priesthood until like what, the 1970s, something like that.
Yeah, I think it was like late 60s, early 70s.
The AUB church still does not allow Blacks to have the priesthood. They don't even allow
Oh,
them in their
wow.
doors. Hated it. So that is just like one example of one of the biggest issues I had with AUB is I was like, there's no way that a God would hate an entire people based upon the color of their skin. There's no way. That is not a God I want to be a part of. That is not a God I can understand. That is not a belief I can understand. Because if he was a true God, he would love all of us equally. We would all be part of the same, just love. Who cares?
Mhm.
Who cares what you look like, where you come from, just love. So I knew I couldn't do AUB, but I was super pro polygamy, anti AUB. But I knew that there were other polygamy religious groups out there. And I was like, I'll probably just join one of them, not knowing that, the other ones are just as bad, if not
Yeah.
worse. As
Yeah.
long as I can remember back, I knew that I would not be a member of the AUB church, but I did know that I would live polygamy. I started to like the cracks of any religion happened when I was a lot older, but I knew I couldn't do AUB, but I loved a lot of the beliefs. I loved a lot of the just like love people, treat people with kindness, the morals in the church, which I think are just like morals and beliefs that are associated with most religions, just like
Mhm.
love other people, put kindness first, don't hurt your neighbor, just like common with religion in general, not necessarily common with the AUB.
When you met Tony, your now husband, is that when you realized, "Oh, I'm never gonna practice polygamy because I love this man and he doesn't wanna do this?"
Tony said hard no when we first started dating. He would never do polygamy. And I was like, well, I choose you over polygamy every day.
Wow.
So that was when I knew that I would never live it, but I still like had in my head, like it could be a possibility, maybe eventually one day in life, like it could be a possibility. I am not opposed. My husband is opposed, and therefore we will not live it. I think. But
Yeah.
it was around when I met him. I was like, you're it for me. So peace out to polygamy.
How old were you when you met?
I was 19 years old when Tony and I met.
And when did you get married?
We got married when I was 20.
Oh my gosh,
I
so
know.
quick.
Typical Utah, huh? So
I didn't say you did.
I I left home when I was 18. I pieced out super quick. I went to college at UNLV, which is the University of Las Vegas, Nevada, which is 45 minutes away from my parents' house. But I lived in a apartment building with my sister Aspen. I went to college for a year and I was like, I actually hate Vegas. Why am I here? I hate Las Vegas. I hate the people, which I didn't really hate the people, but it was like this whole like rebellious, I'm done. I need to be away from my family. This
Yeah.
isn't far enough. So I moved to St. George, Utah, which is only 2 hours away from my
Yeah.
family in Las Vegas. Moved to St. George, Utah, and I started like just meeting people. And I realized that it wasn't AUB I didn't like. It was AUB I didn't like, but I loved the Book of Mormon. I actually still believed in a lot of the teachings. So I started investigating and looking into converting into the Mormon church. And that was around the time when I met Tony, because he was an active member in the Mormon church. He was a recent returned missionary. And we actually met playing ultimate frisbee at a park that was like a youth event that people got to.
What did your mom say when you said, "Hey mom, I don't want to do AUB anymore. I want to do mainstream Mormonism"?
In love with the idea. My parents always we were always taught growing up that the mainstream Mormon church wasn't wrong. Like, in fact, mainstream Mormon church we were actually taught it was the right church.
What?
But they were not allowed to live polygamy. We were special. We were special by God, that we were designed to carry on the practice of plural marriage. And when we all pass away in heaven, the church we'll all belong to is the mainstream Mormon church. That is the foundation. That is Joseph Smith's church. It's simply that they were not allowed to practice plural marriage anymore. And it was our sacred duty to continue it. So my dad didn't care if I went LDS. He wanted me to be polygamist, but my whole family was pro LDS, always pro LDS. Like, if you're not going to live polygamy and you're not going to be part of my church, LDS is this next best choice. So they were great with it. Great with it.
That is so funny because almost everyone else from all the other groups are like, the LDS church is an abomination and they turned away from God and you know, whatever they have to say, but it's usually not positive.
No, I was just taught that it was like it was just our sacred duty to continue a plural marriage and they weren't supposed to anymore. That's it. And I could be wrong with other like AUB families. Like this was
Yeah.
my family. This is maybe my dad was a maverick, but this is just what I was grown with.
Okay. Yeah. So you meet Tony, you get married right away, and this is a part that I definitely wanted to emphasize because when you tried to join the mainstream church, they actually had quite a few conditions that turned you away from it.
So I was investigating the mainstream Mormon church for a little over a year. I was a year and a half. I was investigating the mainstream Mormon church for a year and a half, and I knew I wanted to get baptized within the first like 3 months. And I had meetings with my missionaries every single week. I went to church. I went to seminary. I went to institute. Institute is like church school. It's like church school. You can get a degree at institute, but they called it institute. But it was like mainstream Mormon church school. Anyway, where they taught about the Book of Mormon. But yeah, I was investigating it heavily, loved it, fell in love with it. I knew it was beautiful. And so I was like, hey, missionaries, I want to get baptized. And they were like, okay, because you come from polygamy, it's a little bit of a longer process. You actually have to talk to some other people. So I talked to the bishop of my ward and he was like, wow, this is great. This is awesome. But it's not my decision because you live polygamy, because you come from polygamy
Yeah.
and your parents are public. So we got to go up. So I took a meeting with, I was a member of the Quorum of the 12. No, sorry, it was not him. It was not yet. It was like the guy who was over all of Salt Lake City. I don't know how
Oh.
they kind of did their jurisdiction, but I had a meeting with that gentleman. And essentially I was like, hey, I want to join the church. And he was like, okay, cool. But you come from polygamy. So then it went up to the Quorum of the 12. And at the time, President Monson, he's no longer the president of the church because he passed away. I did an interview with them. My like all of my recommendation letters coming from this huge line of people I'd already interviewed with went to him. And then I got a letter back down. It was a couple months, like it's a month-long process, guys, months. The letter came back down and it got delivered to my bishop in my ward. He called me into his office and he read the letter out loud to me. And it was signed by President Monson and the entire Quorum of the 12, which is like the priesthood council
That's
over
insane.
the mainstream Mormon church. And they basically came down and they said, you can join our church. We would love to have you under one condition. I guess two conditions. You have to promise to never live polygamy. You have to denounce your entire family, move away from them, and never have a relationship with them again in order to join our church. So it was, we are punishing you for your parents' beliefs. Which is like one of the articles of faith that the mainstream Mormon church and the AUB church and any Mormon church talks about is we will not punish you for Adam's transgressions, which is essentially like it's not your fault with how your parents chose or how their parents chose. It's not your fault. But the first presidency was blaming me and telling me that if I wanted to join the Mormon church, I could never see my family again or talk to them. It was them or me. It was church. It was faith or family. And I had to choose. And I was like, well, my family, of course, because any rightful God, any rightful person wouldn't tell me to choose between my family and my religion. They would tell me I could have both. So when that happened, super challenged my faith. I was like, I can't, but I had a hard time because I knew at the end of the day, these were just people. They were humans. They weren't God. They weren't God telling me I couldn't join. They were humans interpreting what they thought was right because the mainstream Mormon church hates that they're associated with polygamy. They hate it. So they were scared it would come back and lash on them and people would again start thinking that they were polygamist. I still was investigating the church because I was like, ultimately, I still want to be here. So maybe I'll just like keep going to church and I'll keep doing this and I'll keep having my missionary lessons until I get to have the opportunity to go through and try to get baptized again. Months later, I tried it again and I was told no. And so I was like, I'm not done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm not going to try to investigate. This is not me. This is not right. So this is all wrong, which was, it was kind of nice because then I could finally drink coffee again. So hindsight.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know how I function without that. But it was a year and a half of like,
that's insane. The irony of them not allowing someone to join because of polygamy when they were literally founded on polygamy. And then, okay, let's say you denounce polygamy, but then expecting you to cut off your family and never see them or speak to them again when they claim to be the church that keeps families together forever. It's
Yep.
just make it make sense. That's absolutely insane to me.
Yeah. So it challenged my husband's beliefs too. And
Yeah.
he left the church because he was like, this is wrong. So he left the church as well. So he still hates coffee though.
I don't drink coffee either. I still have never had a single cup. The flavor is outrageous to me. So
Don't try it. Save yourself the money, the hassle. You're just stay safe.
tea is my jam.
There you go.
So how long then after them saying no to you did both of you leave the church?
We didn't fully like leave the church. And technically, I don't think Tony's removed his records yet. It's been 10 years, but we didn't fully stop going to church until it was probably 6 months after I was told no the second time when we fully stopped.
Do you remember the year?
Oh gosh. So I moved to St. George in 2015. So it was 2015. It was like probably late 2015, early 2016.
Okay, because, and it's so interesting that this connects. This is the same time that they put out the policy that was then reversed.
Gays.
Yes, about if your
Mhm.
parents were same sex, you couldn't get baptized until you were 18 and you had to disavow your parents. I'm like, this sounds very familiar. It's like they were just taking the same playbook for that.
And that was one of the things that my bishop actually mentioned is that they wanted me to do the same thing. They were going to hold
He
me to the
mentioned
same
that.
standards. He's like, yeah, they were going to hold me to the same standards of it because they thought that this was the best policy. So I was like, I mean, that sucks for anybody who comes from a same-sex couple. Like that sucks because you should have whatever choice you want and your parents should be able to
Yeah.
have whatever choice they want. So yeah, it was just dumb.
And that caused a tidal wave of damage. And that's saying it extremely, extremely lightly. It was a horrible, horrible thing, which is why they reversed it. So I wonder if you were to try again now, if they would have the same opinions. Not that I want you to.
Interesting. I don't think that they would. I think that if I tried it now, but I think a big reason why is because like I haven't been on the show very much the last couple of years, but also I think that they realize no matter what, people are going to associate Mormonism with polygamy. Like that's just like they're just done.
Yeah.
But also I live in North Carolina now and my parents live on the West Coast. So I am separated from my family. So we're good. I think that they would probably let me in, but I'd have to lie through all of my interviews and tell them I wasn't going to drink coffee and stuff like that. So,
But also why? Like, why are you making it so hard to join the church if it's the one true religion? Shouldn't you just be open arms? Anyone is welcome. Please come get baptized, enjoy the covenants that are bestowed upon you and the Holy Ghost and all the things. It's just, I mean, we've talked about mainstream Mormonism on here many times, so I'm not defending the church or encouraging anyone to join it. I'm just saying if that were the case, if they truly, anyway.
it is interesting. It's like a double standard. It is
It
interesting.
is. It's a double
They want
standard.
everyone, but they want the special ones.
Gross. How has your life continued to change or be affected by this TV show? Because it's still ongoing as of now, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're still filming. Season 21 is probably going to come out this fall. I mean, hugely affected, hugely. So I was filming ever since they started filming, I've been on almost every single episode. This last season is an exception. This last season, I wasn't on a whole lot, but like so I have 3 kids now and I filmed the births of all 3 kids. The actual footage of my body, you don't see because, it's, not for mature. Anyway, but like I gave birth on camera. I got married on camera. I moved to North Carolina on camera. Everything. Like I courted my husband on camera. All of these events. I helped my mom through her divorce. I was there for my other mother, Janelle. So hugely affected. One of the biggest reasons why is because like I'll go into Costco and I get recognized. Or my social media is super public and I get news articles. This way, Mykelti's pregnant again. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just bloated.
Oh, no. Oh, no. That's the worst.
Oh my gosh, all the time. It impacted my life hugely. One of the biggest ways I will say is anytime I need to go get a job, like I had to get a job about 2 years ago. And on my interview, like in my resume and stuff, I do put like as on my resume that my previous work is with Sister Wives because I'm like, that is like 15 years of, I've been working here for 15 years. That's great on a resume. That looks awesome. So I put it on my resume, but also because I needed to disclose it to my future boss, because if it affects my work or affects my coworkers, they need to know about it. So in my interview process, I had to promise that the show wouldn't show up at my work and film. That was like a big thing. And every interview process, every job I've had, like that has been one of the biggest concerns is, are they going to affect your job? Are our customers, our clients, are other employees going to have a hard time with this? Are they going to be hurt by it? Is it going to affect like your day-to-day job?
Mm-hmm.
So that's always been a big thing. And I have to promise them, I'm like, no, the show won't come to my job. It won't come to my work. It won't be affected. I don't talk about it at work. I don't talk about the show. If I get recognized by a coworker, I'll talk about it, but I can't speak about it with my clients, because if they hate polygamy, they hate my family, it like could derail the conversation. It could hurt the company. The company I work at, it's not public knowledge where I work, because I don't want it to negatively impact my boss or my job.
Yeah.
So hugely through life, but mostly because of work. Like that's like the biggest thing that affects it.
Did you get any compensation for being on the show?
Yes. So the way that the pay structure worked with the show is that the show, the network, whoever does the pay structure would like pay each individual parent. Here's your check, here's your check, your check. And each of them, the way they got paid was they were all supposed to get 1/5 essentially. From that, it came down to the individual household. So like my mom, if I filmed on an episode, I'd be like, Mom, I filmed. Can I be paid for it? But before we were 18, it was your college is going to be paid for and you'll get a car when you go to college. Like that was the deal.
Mhm.
You film, you get college, and you get a car. And then when you're 18, if you decide to film after that, you sign your own contract, but you're still subcontracted under your parent. So my mom had like a specific, if you film blank amount of hours, you get blank amount of money. That's kind of what she did. So after I was 18, every time I filmed, I did get money. I don't think it was what we deserved. It wasn't anywhere near like, a job. It wasn't anything like that. I think that personally, all my parents were very greedy with their money, because this is the first time they ever had money, and they were like stingy with it because they had these mansions, guys. Their houses were freaking mansions, and my car I had to pay for half of it, and it was $3,000, guys. So it was a crap car. P.S. It was a crap car. But like, we were compensated, but we were not fairly compensated, is what I'll say.
Mhm.
There were a couple changes in that. Big events. So when I gave birth on camera, I got a fat check, and when I had my wedding, I got a fat check. Same thing was supposed to happen. I do not know 100% if it happened with my other siblings that got married on camera or had kids on camera, but it was supposed to be like, if you do something like this, where this is literally the entire season is us getting ready for your wedding. The entire season is the pregnancy. Like after the end of it, you will not have a nice compensation. So
Mhm.
it paid for the hospital bill. And it paid for my honeymoon, essentially. But we did get a nice check for those two big events. Outside of that, we were a little bit compensated. But technically, yes,
Okay.
we were paid.
Okay, so are you continuing to film with them then?
I have not been asked to film in about a year. I've not told them no, but they have not requested me on. The network has a new producer. He's been probably, I think it's been 2, maybe 3 years now. This new producer kind of has a different way that he likes to do stuff, and really none of the kids are on the show at all. And most of it is because of this new producer's decision with publishing and documenting and stuff. So not because I said no, simply because they haven't asked.
What do you think are the things that were either misconstrued or misconceptions or edited poorly or edited to be a different way than they actually were that you want people to know about?
There's a lot of like little things. The family, they for the first several years, especially the first couple seasons, like through season 7 or 8, like the kids are all like, you don't understand what goes on behind closed doors. Like that's what it is that we're all taught and we're told that we were needed to behave very nicely. And so you don't see like this is the true family. These are the true Browns. Not to say that there was anything specifically that was a huge scandal, just that we had to be nice. We had to behave. We couldn't do what we normally do. We had to be present when the cameras were around because they needed content. So a lot of times in the tiny little mishaps that we have, like the tiny little disagreements, or I wore a tank top once and got in so much trouble. My shirt showed right here instead of being where it should be up here. So I got like obliterated for it. But it's like if the cameras were off, my parents wouldn't have cared as much. about like little things like that.
Interesting.
So it was just like more of a behavior thing. The freaking stupid catfish. I don't know. You didn't watch the show. So
Tell me
oh
what
my
happened with the
gosh.
catfish.
All the fans are so annoyed with this because it's been the same friggin' story for 10 years. Dad and Mary were not doing well, so they were separated. In a way, she kicked him out. He didn't come over. But before that, he emotionally left her because he was with Robyn. Their marriage was just not doing a whole well, but they were like together without being together. Mary was lonely. She sought companionship. She got that companionship. Turned out that companionship that she thought was a dude and she was flirting with heavily, talking with inappropriately for a married woman over the phone and on text, tons of stuff. Turns out that man was in fact a woman. So only people talk about the fact that it was catfishing, but she cheated. You know, he kind of cheated first because polygamy, but whatever. People only talk about the catfishing and it's been like going on for 10 years and we're so annoyed with it. But nobody ever talks. And Mary's, I think she has rewritten her history and she doesn't understand that she wouldn't have been catfished if she wasn't looking for companionship. Like this wouldn't have happened if you weren't looking for something.
Yeah.
And the show likes to paint it as a better view because if the show had painted it as Mary was cheating, it could have potentially canceled the show. So instead, Mary was catfished. Oh no, poor Mary. She's now the victim.
Oh.
And that is one of the biggest stories that has been like, they had to cover part of it up and make it look better so they could keep the show. So it's like stupid things like that.
How was she catfished by a woman if they talked on the phone and she didn't know it was a woman?
Because the woman had a voice that was a man. I don't know. Same question. Because like Leon, my sibling, who is Mary's child, would like hear them having conversations. So Leon could actually hear every now and then their mom talking to other people. And yeah, wild, right? Like how does that happen? I don't know. So there have been a couple things like that. There's been also like little things that aren't a big deal, but because they were filmed, they are a big deal. So Robyn and my dad went on a honeymoon that was way too long for polygamy standards, but it wouldn't have been as long if the show wasn't filming it. They needed to have like tons of footage for it, so they had to make it long. Versus my biological mom got like a 3-day honeymoon and they just jumped in a car and started driving and they didn't know what they were doing. Family vacations. My parents would have never gone to Hawaii, to Alaska, to Nauvoo, Illinois, to any of these places without the cameras. Like we only went because they were filming it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things like that happened because of the show, but like it's because the show was seeking drama. They were like, how to put the Browns into an emotional situation where they're going to lash out and something negative is going to happen. Throw them on a vacation. They'll hate each other by the end of it. This is great content. So they would like put us in situations that would almost like force the disagreements and arguments. I mean, every time my parents were in a room together, they started arguing about something. So
what's your relationship with your mom, with your dad, with your siblings now?
My mom and I, great relationship. Love her. We talk not very often, but that's because I'm a mom and busy. A great relationship with my mom. She lives in Utah. My dad and I don't talk right now. We went through a couple of years where I was the favorite child. Probably not, but like I like to think of myself as one of the OG3's favorite children because he loved my dad, my husband, and me and his favorite wife were the only of his other children that were talking. Like her and I had a great relationship. So I was like one of the favorites. I was top tier. But then when I started to like dismantle and talk back and be like questioning him and questioning Robyn and their motives and their stuff, they started to slowly pull back and like almost like cut me out a little bit because I started having an opinion, which I always had when I was just like an adult and finally decided to talk about my opinion. So they slowly stopped like talking to me. And then my dad became almost like he would love bomb. I'd get tons of affection from him. He would show up a bunch and then he wouldn't talk to me or call me for like 4 months and he wouldn't respond when I tried. So I was just kind of like, I don't need this in my life. I have my own problems to deal with. So I stopped answering his phone calls. And then he did this whole like apology tour. So in season 20, he did this apology tour, whereas when he was going around to all his wives saying sorry for crap, which it was really just for him. It wasn't for them. But I was like, okay, well, that's a cool olive branch. Maybe I'll try. So I sent my dad a really cool, heartfelt scrapbook that my kids and I had made, and I sent it to him and Robyn, and I addressed it to all of their kids. I was actually really excited about it. Handprints, photos, this little
Oh,
voice camera. Like, I put so much love into this. It was homemade. So it was a
yeah.
homemade love. And he got it like Christmas Eve, showed up at the house, and I texted him 2 weeks into Christmas and I said, "Hey, Dad, did you guys get my gift?" And I had told him beforehand I was sending him a gift because I asked for his address. And so he said, "Thanks, that's so sweet of you. Here's my address." Sent him the gift, arrived Christmas Eve. 2 weeks later, I texted him, "Did you get it?" 2 weeks later, he responds, "Yeah, I got it. Thanks." And I was like, "What the shit?
Oh,
No,
no.
no, no." So I finally just kind of like clicked in my head. You're selfish. You're a narcissist. This is just, you want to be looked at as the best person. And if you're not looked at the best person, you don't care. So it's not me that you care about. It's that I'll talk good about you. You only want me if I can only talk good about you and listen to you talk.
Yeah.
So I realized that I just don't need to have a relationship. So right now I am not in contact with him. And
Ugh, that would have
yeah.
broke me. Putting in so much
Yeah.
love and effort with your kids and all of that, and just no true response. No, thank you,
No.
really.
And
Just
not from the kids either. Like, it was addressed to all the kids, and the little note, like, I
yeah.
wrote a note to all of them. I addressed each of them. I addressed Robyn. I was like, "I love you guys. I want to connect. It's hard right now, I know, but like, I love you guys at the end of the day. Let's figure this out." No response from any of them. And I was like,
Ugh.
"Thank you. Thank you." Like,
Well, it's good that you were able to see that response and take it for what it was and actually prioritize your mental health and be like, "Yeah,
mhm,
this isn't a good situation," because a lot of times people will keep reaching out, right? Of, "I'll just try harder," or "I'll try again in a few months," and it continues to hurt you. So, at least you were able to be like, "No, this isn't working," and take a stand.
mhm. It was like the final straw because I spent my whole life just like trying to make him happy, trying to please him,
Yeah.
trying to be the bridge to my family and keep everybody together. And I was just like, this is just like, I have my own problems. I have 3 kids. I'll put my life and energy into them instead.
So, let's talk about that, how you're doing now in a monogamous relationship. How are you doing? What brings you joy and peace these days?
Oh, my kids. My whole life, the one thing I always wanted was to be a mom. Like, that is the biggest driving force, which is crazy to be this 12-year-old and be like, "I can't wait to have kids." And then a 16-year-old, "I can't wait to have kids." And then an 18-year-old, "I can't wait to have kids." Like, that literally my whole life. So it is, I mean, my biggest passion. I love being a mom. Absolutely love it. There's a lot of downsides. They do make me go crazy. Every now and then I just have enough and I put them in their bedrooms. I turn the TV on and I just go breathe somewhere else. So yeah,
Well,
for
you have
sure.
twins.
I do. I have twins, they're 3, and then my daughter, she's a single, she's gonna be 5 tomorrow.
Whew.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It is a lot. But no, I'm so happy. We moved out here to North Carolina, a year and a half ago, and it was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made just to like, I just needed to be my family and have my ideas and my truth and my beliefs and not be surrounded by like others in my family's opinion. It was like just our turn. So my husband and I, we've never been closer. We've never been more healthy and like more just aligned and happy. And like, yeah, sometimes we'll get disagreements because he doesn't put his socks in the hamper. He puts them next to the hamper, which is so stupid. But we're doing amazing. And I'm about 4 hours away from my sister, Maddie, who is the other one of my siblings who has kids. And she lives on the same property with her mom, Janelle, who I'm close with. So it's like I have family close, but I have my own autonomy. And yeah, we're doing so good. My kids are in school right now, and my job is incredible. I absolutely love it. So we're doing fantastic, actually.
I love it.
It's hard being so far from my mom, but
Yeah. When did you decide to start a Patreon and start talking about all of this stuff semi-publicly?
so about 3 years ago, actually. So it was about a year and a half before we moved to North Carolina. I think it was season 17 of Sister Wives was airing, and we were like, well, why don't we do like a watch party and with fans? Because we're not on as much. We know that my parents get all these questions, they never talk about it, and we can shed light and the truth behind a lot of stuff. Like, there's a lot of stuff the cameras show that I'm like, no, that's bullshit. That was edited weird. That's not accurate. Let's change this. Or they'll like be really nice about a personality. I'm like, no, that's not happening. So it was just more of like, it's fine. I was finally able to make my story. Like, I didn't feel like I was compensated growing up for putting my entire life out there. And I was like, it's time to make a stand. I'm done with this. I want to be compensated, but also I want to shed some truth and light. I mean, we have people who've been watching us for 16 years that are loyal fans, and not all of them know everything. They don't all know the truth. And it's like, it's finally time.
Yeah.
And they stopped filming the kids as much. Like the kids like stopped getting filmed as much. I was like, you guys don't even know what's going on in the children's lives. So why not show you what's going on in the children's lives? So this is like, yeah.
How do people find that Patreon and join?
Oh, so a couple ways. So you can just search my name on Patreon, Mykelti Brown. I'm the only one. I promise you, I'm the only one. So that's one way to find it. You can also go to my Instagram, which is Mykelti P. It's just a link in my bio, but super easy to find. I promise you, there's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of hectic. We do have a lot of insights, but a lot of it is like very heavy community based. We built an incredible community of people who just like are fans, but then kind of just turned into friends. So
that's awesome. And we're about to film for that now. So you guys can go watch, go join and watch. Let's do your Linda Listen before we go.
Okay. Do I say Linda Listen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Linda Listen. If you're a parent and you've never opened or cracked a parenting book, you figure yourself out, go open one. It doesn't matter which one you open. Just go open one, because it's so much easier to figure it out once you kind of know a little bit.
Yeah. Do some research. As long as it's not to train up a child, do not open that parenting book. Wrong parenting book. Let me just put a caveat there. Yes, I agree. Do the research. Figure out what works for kids. Brain development is so important. Healthy attachment styles, all of that. Be preaching my parenting advice. I'm a new parent and I'm like, this is how you should do it.
This is your second though, right?
Yeah, I'm on my second, about to be a 2-time mom now.
It gets worse, but also
Don't
so
tell me
much
that.
better. No, so much better. It like gets worse because you're outnumbered, and so it's harder.
Yeah.
But it gets better because then you have a built-in best friend. Like that's literally what siblings are. Best friends. You don't have to like play with them 100% of the time because they'll play with each other. So it's great. Having siblings, so great.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, thanks for coming on and for reaching out. I'm so glad we connected. And yes, I would love to do more interviews. Maybe get your mom on or some other people from the AUB. We do have a few from AUB. People can check out the playlist as well. But it's been so great chatting with you. Do you have any other final thoughts before we go?
Nothing else. Sharice, thank you so much for your time. Anybody who watching this, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully I wasn't too crazy or controversial. I tend to go on tangents a lot. But thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate this.
Absolutely. And guys, thank you so much for watching. Leave those words of encouragement down below for Mykelti. Check out her Patreon, and I'm sure we'll do a live at some point with her husband, Tony. I kind of wanted to split them up for this one, but maybe we'll come back and do another episode with them. And if you have specific questions, you can leave them in the comments and we'll try to get back to those. We have channel memberships if you want early access to some of our videos or behind the scenes content, members only live streams. We have Patreon, patreon.com/cults to consciousness, some merch at cultstoconsciousness.com, and definitely check out our AUB playlist. I'll link 2 of them down here below. We've had some amazing people on, and until next time, follow your highest excitement, be conscious and be well.